A reading from Song of Songs, chapter 2. She. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. He. Like a lily among thorns is my darling among the young women. She. Like an apple tree among the trees of the forest is my beloved among the young men. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit is sweet to my taste. Let him lead me to the banquet hall, and let his banner over me be love. Listen, my beloved, look, here he comes, leaping across the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle or a young stag. Look, there he stands behind our wall, gazing through the windows, peering through the lattice. My beloved spoke and said to me, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me." He. My dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the hiding places on the mountains, show me your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. She. My beloved is mine, and I am his. He browses among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle or a stag on the rugged hills. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I am using the next few moments to reflect with you on the topic of intimacy in the age of social distancing. The Song of Songs, from which I have just read, is unique in the Old Testament. It shows no interest in law or covenant, nor does it make mention of the God of Israel. It does not teach or explore wisdom in the way the Proverbs do or in the way Ecclesiastes does. Instead, it celebrates something that is often taboo in faith communities. It celebrates sexual love. In the voices of two lovers, this book allows for individuals to praise each other, to yearn for each other, to proffer, albeit steamy, invitations to enjoy one another. It's probably fair to say that Song of Songs is one of the least read books in the Bible, at least publicly. For many of us, it presents difficulties. It challenges our comfort level. It tests our sense of morality. And it exposes for many people a very real fear of intimacy. Broadly speaking, intimacy, of course, is what some would call the innate human need to know and be known. One way we meet this need is through sexual expression. We're human. But by no means is sex the only or even the essential ingredient to human intimacy. In this age of social distancing, it may therefore be comforting to note that our proximity to one another is not necessarily an essential ingredient to our intimacy either. Song of Songs was likely written in the 3rd century BC. Website census.gov estimates that the world population at that time was about 230 million people. 100 million people less than today's population in these United States of America alone. People then had a different idea than we do of what it meant to be proximate to one another. Said another way, social distancing back then was a given. Yet from that era came one of the most striking, most provocative, most enduring, and most intimate poems in all of literature. On the other hand, human beings today are more proximate than we have ever been. But I'm not convinced that despite our nearness to our physical nearness to one another, we are any more intimate holistically than we were eons ago. Are you? And friends, we pay a real price for this. On February 23rd, 2020, February 23rd, 2020, a young unarmed man was hunted, shot, and killed in Brunswick, Georgia. He was jogging. No illegal substances were found in his bloodstream. No stolen merchandise found on his person. He was 25 years old. Undoubtedly, some of us are growing weary of hearing about the Ahmaud Arbery killing. But friends, this is not an isolated event. It is only one in what is actually a long-standing reign of violence exacted against people who look like Mr. Arbery, who look like me, dating back to the very founding of this country. I would be remiss as a minister of Word and Sacrament in the Presbyterian Church USA, and I would be remiss as an African American male not to call the name Ahmaud Arbery. And this violence has got to stop. It has got to stop. In my effort to make sense of all of this, I am concluding one thing, that if there's a blot on our humanity today, if there is a fatal flaw in our character, it is not that we are inherently violent. It is not that we come into the world knowing how to hate. The fatal flaw in our humanity is that we refuse to know and be known. In the Garden of Eden, after Adam and Eve had eaten the forbidden fruit, They heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the evening breeze. They were naked. And do you remember what they did? They hid. For those of us who are speculating about the deleterious impact of social distancing on our relationships, I assert this evening that social distancing really isn't the problem. The problem is our incessant hiding. Our hiding from God, the Creator. Our hiding from one another. The problem is our refusal to take the time to get to know another person's authentic self. The problem is our contentment with the practice of reducing people to demeaning stereotypes, thereby justifying demeaning, even murderous behaviors. The problem is our ignorance about who we are, about who God made us to be. The problem is our fear of letting people see our inner selves, our vulnerabilities, our susceptibilities, our passions. The problem is spiritual, emotional, and relational distance. And we constructed all of those things long before there was ever a COVID-19. The problem is our rejection of the natural order of God's good creation. Carlo Rovelli is an Italian theoretical physicist and writer. In his 2014 book, 7 Brief Lessons on Physics, he asked this question. If the world is a swarm of ephemeral quanta of space and matter, a great jigsaw puzzle of space and elementary particles, then what are human beings? Do we only consist of quanta and particles? Later, he writes, we are part of nature, not separate from it. Inasmuch as we are part of God's natural order, nature is in us. Even as we get to know it, we already are shaped by it. And at the heart of our nature as humans is the need to love and the need to be honest. Friends, is there anything more intimate than that? Is there anything more antidotal to the problem of sin and shame than that? One more word about Song of Songs. Jewish tradition reads this sensual poem as an allegory of the relationship between God and Israel. Christians read it as an allegory of the relationship between Christ and his bride, the church. That being the case, let's try this rendering on for size. Church. I am a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valleys. Christ, like a lily among thorns, is my darling church among all people. Church, like an apple tree among the trees of the forest, is my beloved Christ. I delight to sit in his shade, and his fruit, it is sweet to my taste. Christ, my church is in the clefts of the rock, in the hiding places on the mountainside. Show me your face, church. Let me hear your voice, church. For your voice is sweet, and your face is lovely. Church, Christ is mine, and we are his. He browses among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee. Turn, my Christ, turn and be like a gazelle or like a young stag on the rugged hills. Friends, in this age of social distancing, I believe we have just simply got to know and engage Christ more honestly, more intimately. This is the only way we will ever truly meet our deepest human need: to know and be known, or in the words of a scientist, to love and be honest.